Hello and welcome to Ta-da, It's Done. I'm Evie Burke. I am the founder and productivity strategist at One Insight Closer, where I help women business owners put the plans and priorities behind their ideas and goals so they can make the profit that they want in their business. And welcome to part 5 in the Why Things Don't Get Done series. Last week we talked about constantly reworking things, and this week we're going to talk about a similar topic, which is making things too complicated. And one way that we can make things too complicated is by putting overly complex solutions together. The question to ask yourself here is, do you really need it to be that complicated and elaborate? You can always add layers to it after you know that the basics work. So one example of this is having a very long sales pipeline. So what that looks like is you have this low investment opportunity that they can purchase here, and then you sell them something a little bit more expensive, a little bit more expensive, a little bit more expensive, and then you sell them the thing that you actually want them to buy, the more involved working with you product, whether that's one-on-one coaching, group coaching, or whatever it is for you, right? So the issue here, well, there's no issue here if every piece is tested and converts for you. Then that's great. The problem comes in when everything's new. Then if anything goes wrong in the process, everything breaks down and you never actually get to the higher investment program or process or item that you actually want to be selling, right? So in this example, start with what you ultimately want to be selling and work out the messaging and the marketing for that. And then after you have that down, then you can start to add the other layers to it. Or your solutions might be overly complicated because you don't have enough of the pre-work done. So for example, don't create a system that relies on you having an appointment scheduler and that prevents you from adding appointments to your calendar until you do. So I've seen clients not set up one-on-one calls or sales calls with people because, well, they're busy researching the scheduling tools to figure out what's the best one for them. Or they picked one and they're so busy getting lost in the details of how to set it up perfectly that they aren't getting any one-on-ones or sales calls set up. Their time would have better been spent reaching out personally and setting things up, the old-fashioned way, whether it's a phone call or an email back and forth, and starting to get a feel for how they work in that process, and then researching the appointment scheduling tools so that they know, because then they know what they're looking for. They have an idea about how that process looks for them and what they want it to look like, and then they can add on the slightly more complex automation layer once they have those details done. So there's two main benefits to just starting out kind of maybe a little more scrappy and then adding on the automation. The first benefit is you start getting appointments and meetings on your calendar, right? So you start actually doing the thing and having the results that you want. And then the second thing is they learn what's important to them in the process, which makes choosing and setting up that process, that automation, easier later. So when we overcomplicate things and spend too much time putting together the perfect system, it feels like we're being proactive and productive in our business, that we're checking off those things, but instead we're avoiding the things that actually move us closer to the results, aka the clients and the income that we want, right? So the last example I want to share with you for overthinking is probably one of the most prevalent ways, the wording is escaping me here, but it's the way that it's most likely to show up, and that's overthinking. So when you're overthinking an email or a conversation, and so you're not actually going and sending that email or picking up the phone and having that conversation because you're all caught up in your head about, am I wording it perfectly? Am I going to be bothering them? What if they don't want to hear from me, right? We have all of those ways that we overthink things and overcomplicate things in our head. So instead of creating all of these stories around why somebody would or wouldn't want to talk to you, just maybe move forward, right? Just think about, assume that people want to hear from you, assume the best about people and their intentions and and how they're interacting with you, and just ask, right? Just email somebody and say, hey, it was great to see you at such and such an event. I'd love to get to know you and your business better. What days work best for you this week? Or here's some times I have available for a one-on-one next week, right? Just do the thing instead of getting caught up in the overcomplicating details or overthinking of it. So if you're up for a quick assignment, take a step back this week and do a quick review for where you might be making things too complicated instead of doing a more straightforward task and moving forward. So if you find that you are making something more complicated, that you're adding layers where maybe you don't need layers yet, look at how can you move it forward without making it overly complicated. And if you want to have a chat about this to get a little help or just ask any questions, reach out. I'm happy to have a chat with you about this. And until until next week, much love. Bye.